Well, hello everyone, and welcome back for another episode. And this was going to be a little off of our beaten path. Was talking with our panelists in the pre-show, kind of like in the days where I was asking a lot of questions about pistol-mounted optics when I was trying to learn those. The internet kind of gave me a knock of Lee hates red dots, which I didn't. I was the reason I knew to ask the questions I was asking because I was out putting the work in with the red dots. I'd love to give the GMs a hard time that like try to cross over onto the application side, start thinking that there's crossover from that. And so I've gotten kind of a knock as an anti-competition guy, and that is by far not the case. I just think you have to separate the two. So tonight we're going to have a panel where it's going to be Glock versus Sig, I think is going to be the name of this episode for the clickbait. But it's not Glock guns versus Sig guns. We're going to talk about GSSF matches, and then Sig has a shooting sport that is basically a ripoff of GSSF called Shoot Sig. And Jamie and Kemet just hosted one of those matches. David just shot it, and I know he shoots Glock matches. I know Jamie and Kemet shoot Glock matches. So we're going to discuss those two and kind of the benefits, an overview of the matches, and just a freewheeling discussion on that. And as y'all well know, this show never stays on topic, and we'll find something else to talk about as well. So we're going to go around clockwise on my screen. And David, introduce yourself.
My name is David Enmark. I live in Roswell, Georgia. Recent transplant here. I actually moved here from Oklahoma City, so got into the GSSF and the Shoot Sig matches, shooting with Kemet and Jamie in Oklahoma City.
All right. So you gave up Brahms willingly.
So I had Brahms for breakfast, I think 4 days last week while I was in Oklahoma City for the match. So yes, I willingly did. My children will not drink milk from anywhere but Brahms, so they will only drink milk in the Oklahoma City area. It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah. There you go. Because
yeah.
there's nothing like it in Roswell, Georgia.
There is nothing like it in Roswell, Georgia. Not even a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
yeah.
Kemet.
Uh, I'm Kemet Grafton. I've been shooting GSSF matches since 2017. I've probably shot over 60 outdoor matches. That's the plus of being retired to get to travel. I've gone as far as Trayville, North Carolina on the East Coast, and South Dakota on the north, San Antonio on the south, and far west is Las Vegas, Nevada. Um, the Shoot Sig has been, I've shot four of those in the last year and a half, and they're both of them, GSSF and Shoot Sig, are very good entry level type things for competition. And I'm, as David said, in the Oklahoma City area, and I have a Brahms a mile and a half down the street, so
As I
make you all
recall,
jealous.
there you go. As I recall, you were in Air Force security police back in the day, too, weren't
I
you?
was, yeah, I did 22 years in the Air Force, retired as Lieutenant Colonel, security police. They now call it security forces, but yeah,
Okay. It was security police back in the day, though, wasn't
it was when I was in. They
it? I
they
know.
changed the name the year I retired, 1997.
Okay. All right. Jamie.
My name is Jamie Meyer. I'm in Norman, Oklahoma. I am the match director for the Oklahoma City GSSF match, the Oklahoma Red Dirt Shootout, and stumbled onto GSSF back in 2019. And then Shoot Sig, I've done 3 of those matches in the last year and a half as well.
All right. I won't hold you being a Norman against you. I will have to point out that it pales in comparison to Stillwater.
Fair.
It's
Okay.
always interesting because I got my master's degree from OU, but I was a tenured professor at Oklahoma State and Oklahoma City for 16 years. So paycheck alumni.
Yeah. Well, we got to have Bedlam. So
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
I'm an alumni from Oklahoma State. So
Okay.
one of my 4. So
We always root for Oklahoma teams. It's just when you go south, I don't go that way. Stay out of Texas.
yeah. It was funny. David Cagle and I were doing the same program at Oklahoma State, and OU and Texas were playing each other one day. And I texted Cagle and said, "Are we allowed to pull for OU?" He says, "If they're playing Texas, then yes, we're allowed to do that."
Yep,
So,
absolutely.
all right. Oh gosh, I gotta say, I shot my first Glock match back in 2009. I had a buddy that was a salesman for Glock for a number of years, and he was just constantly in my ear about I needed to come shoot one of the Glock matches. To the point that he even arranged for me to get a complimentary membership and match fees for a match if I would show up. And something happened and I couldn't go. And then I heard about it. Then I even arranged for you to shoot the thing for free and you didn't show up. So finally I went and shot one in '09 and didn't do well. Like I didn't place high, but I didn't get one near the bottom either. But an interesting thing happened at that match is I won a pistol as a random award. And that's something we'll get into on the Glock matches. And so let's see, I paid for a membership and I paid a match fee and I won a pistol that was more than twice the value of what I spent to come to this match. Maybe there's something on to this. That was my first introduction to shooting against a running timer. Up to that point, everything that I had done been shooting wise, it was law enforcement stuff, which has generous part times and the like. And here's this thing that like goes beep and you start shooting and it measures your time. And like, oh, okay, that's different. And that's different. And wasn't long before I got up to the point where I was starting placing at Glock matches. And I would now, to be fair, I was shooting in Guardian, which is not as stiff a competition, I don't think. Ended up, gosh, I won 3 matches in Guardian. Well, technically, I guess I won 2, and then I finished second behind a Glock employee who was barred from winning, and so I got the pistol for that. Shot actively for 4 years, and in 2 of the 4 years, I won enough prizes and money and guns and everything that I had to pay income taxes. We were talking just before the show. I know I won 3 pistols as performance awards, and I distinctly remember winning 2 as random gun awards. I know I won at least 1 random monetary prize, I think a $50 thing. And then there was some pretty heated competition for a little while in Guardian between me and a private security company that was paying their guys to train and to come to the matches. And they had like this own little internal thing. They wanted all their guys to make master shooter. And so I was battling out with those guys all around the Southeast for a little while. And I had a string of 3rd and 2nd place finishes where I was basically shooting the matches for free because I was getting back all my entry fees and everything for that. And then finally won enough that I got bumped up to master. It's a pretty welcoming sport. Very good introduction. I think it helped me dramatically improve as a shooter.
Yeah.
Like I say, it was my first introduction to shooting against a running timer and shooting against people who actually practiced and wanted to win there. I have not shot a shoot sig match yet. I just became aware of those a few weeks ago. If one ever gets in the Southeast, which I know there's a club in Georgia that is actually looking at hosting one next year. So that could be a possibility. Dave, you mentioned something in the intro or in the pre-show that you wanted to talk about. And I think it's a good time to throw it to you. And it's kind of like sell people on why they should come to one of these matches.
Sure. So I got into the GSSF matches actually through a practice match at Oklahoma City Gun Club. So the crowd there had we were going to host our first match in, gosh, Kim, it was at 22 or 23?
22.
22. Yeah. And so they had at Oklahoma City Gun Club started an overall practice match, which was great. At the time, I owned 0 Glocks. You could shoot whatever you wanted. So I shot a few matches, the practice matches once a month, and before you know it, you're buying 3 or 4 Glocks, and you're going to go travel and shoot a match and do all that stuff. And it was incredibly welcoming just to jump into competitive shooting. To your point on, first time hearing a timer, I had shot with the timer and done defensive stuff and done a lot of drills and that sort of thing. But as far as trying to get something on a scoreboard, it really was the first time I dove into that very deeply. And it doesn't matter if you bought the gun on Thursday and you're shooting it for the first time on Saturday, you're welcome to come, versus the guy who as Kim had said, he's done 60 matches at every edge of the country. You're going to see both, and everybody is welcome. No one acts any differently. And it's very inviting to come into the sport. It's a pretty simple way to get into it. It's not intimidating. And everybody is competing against some goal that they set for themselves or for the match. Either it's I'm trying to make master, or I'm trying to break a certain time, or I'm trying to figure out this dang red dot, which I still spend most of my time fighting with that part of it. So yeah, it's an incredibly inviting sport. It's easy. The Glock team does a nice job with it. They really do.
You said something key there, and that is not intimidating. Please elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think that, and I've shot USPSA, I've shot IDPA, I've shot NRA Action. Some of those have a lot of specialty gear or a lot of nomenclature, or just to the average person walking in off the street, do I have the right holster? Do I have the right bag or belt or whatever it may be? When you shoot a Glock match, you shoot everything. It's from a bag, right? You walk up to the table, the RO will tell you can unbag your firearm, you show clear, they'll describe the stage to you, and you shoot it from a low ready. So it's a lot of people just don't spend the time from a defensive perspective ever learning how to draw, right? They buy a gun, they have it, but they don't do that work. And so for the first time you're going to go out and shoot, and somebody's saying you're going to have to come from concealment and IDPA, or you have to have a race rig and USPSA, there's some barriers to entry there that I think are pretty hard to overcome for a new shooter, versus I can bring the gun in the box that I bought it in, show up, somebody else will stuff mags if you're not sure what to do, and you're able to shoot it. So it's not intimidating I can find somebody to shoot a match with, somebody will walk me around. I shot a match this year in Tallahassee, and as I've moved to the East Coast, I'm trying new matches that I've never been to. And I was chatting with a guy in the parking lot. He happens to be a police officer in Tallahassee, and I just asked him who he was there with. He's by himself. Have you ever shot a match? No. He said, you're welcome to travel around with me if you want. We shot the entire match together. And that's the kind of culture in the Glock shooting sports that I think lessens that intimidation. Somebody will grab you. You have a friend immediately, and they'll be your friend forever. It's kind of a cool environment.
Yeah, just before we started recording, or before we got online tonight, I was watching a couple of YouTube videos, and it was one of a guy that just showed up at a Glock match. Hey, I'm going to shoot this Glock match. Let's go see what happens. And the guy had clearly not read the rule book. And his whole video is him basically walking up to places and not knowing what's going on, and the patience that people showed him explaining the rules, including even the range masters, or the guy running the timer for an event, said before he started, he stopped and said, "Wait a minute, do you understand the range commands?" And they was like, "No, actually I don't." And he took a minute to explain, what's going to happen. It's like, I'm going to ask you to shoot ready. I'm going to give you a pause. Then I'm going to say, stand by. And then I'm going to give you another pause. And then the next thing you'll hear is this. And he's like, he set off the timer as a beep. That's your signal. Like, he explained the whole thing to the guy. The guy had signed up inadvertently for a wrong division. And they were like, "Oh, no worries, no worries. Just go ahead and sign in and go shoot. Then go up to registration and tell them you're in the wrong division, and they'll swap you over."
Yeah, they'll fix it.
It was very welcoming, very welcoming. And it's like an anecdote I told as we were pre-show. I shot actively from 2009 to 2013. And then I shot my first match since then, like 2 weekends ago in Belton, South Carolina. And when the scores posted that night, I immediately got a message actually, it was maybe the next day when the plea was posted, I got a message from a guy from back in the day. Like, hey, I saw your name in the results and everything. It's good to see you back at a match. I'm like, that was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
friends for
There's
friends
still
for
that,
life.
yeah, still that whole circle of people. Because I had no idea this guy would remember my name, and sure enough, he sent me a message, and we spent a while chatting and everything, and that's kind of encouraged me to do some other things because I was like, hey, do you shoot still challenge? Because I knew where I was score wise in relation to his scores. Like, yeah, my classifications are. I'm like, wait a minute, if you're classifying at that, my GSSF scores are pretty similar to yours. I got to go try this still challenge thing and see where I'm at on that.
There you go.
But enough of me talking. Kemet.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because I like to volunteer a lot at the different GSSF matches, and one of the things that they tell you, as either the RO or the scorekeeper is to, make the shooters feel comfortable. And the timer, my thing on the timer, that's your box of induced stress, those of us that have had to shoot against the timer for par times and stuff like that. But it's always interesting, particularly the newer ones, if you just set them at ease, walk them through them, and then you just when you see them do something successful, just the smiles on their face, and it's like, this is really good. Um, but it's again, I'm not trying to shoot to be, the best one out there. I'm trying to shoot against myself and being able to continue to improve. And it's fun, to do that. Um, we were talking about the friend stuff, and before the show I was talking about I was working a match in Greeley, Colorado, which is just north of Denver. That's the one my wife will travel with because she's from Colorado. And I was the RO on a stage, and just about maybe half the people that came up, I was calling them by name, and the scorekeeper was a local guy. He says, "Are you from around here?" Says, "No, I just shoot a lot of Glock matches." Because there is a group that go from match to match and show up at all the different ones, and it doesn't take long before you start recognizing their names, and they start recognizing your names, and it's kind of fun.
Jamie?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what David said. When I jumped into GSSF, I had just recently had 2 major back surgeries. I had came originally from USPSA, 3-gun, more action pistol type stuff, running and gunning. But after my back surgeries, I was kind of down and out for a little while, and I was kind of like, man, I really want to get back into shooting, but what can I do? And my friend Rick Cow and Kimmett, they were like, hey, why don't you give GSSF a shot? And I'd heard about it because I had Glocks, I just never really shot them. And we had some indoor matches going on at BDC back then in Shawnee. And so I tried the indoor match, and I was like, wow, I can actually tolerate this. My back was holding up okay. I didn't have to do any running, put any extra weight on my back or anything. And I actually fared pretty well in those indoor matches. We didn't have outdoor matches at that time. But I really liked it because I literally could just bring what I had. You could just bring what you buy in the box, come with 2 or 3 magazines, depending upon which, Glock you get. And that was always enough for everything I ever wanted to do. There was always plenty of time to reload mags in between strings. The match directors, whoever was running the indoor matches, were very patient and just would wait on you. Everybody was very friendly, very welcoming. I was typically, one of maybe 2 females or something there, and never felt out of place or like I didn't belong. And it was really special to me, and I really fell in love with it because I met all these guys, and they just made it fun. It was fun, something to do, and you got recognition for, different achievements that you did on your own. So.
Yeah, we should at this point, I guess, point out that there's 2 different leagues within Glock. You got the indoor matches and the outdoor matches, and they're completely different formats. I guess maybe format's better than leagues. The indoor matches are basically a bullseye type match, and they're run in a 3-match series. and you have to shoot 2 of the 3 matches in the series to qualify for any of the awards and the like. The outdoor matches are standalone events.
Correct. It's more like
Yeah.
their, what I would consider like their major match, if you would, like a level 2 or a level 3 USPSA match. So yeah, you're correct.
And here's one thing about the welcoming and the non-intimidation factor of GSSF. Any stock Glock has got a place to shoot. So you can be competitive with your, as Dave was saying, you bought it on Thursday, you go to the match that weekend, you take it out of the box, there's a division for it to shoot at, and you're not going to be, well, my gun won't compete against that gun over there. Look at all the work it's had to it, done to it, and all that kind of stuff. There's none of that.
They have one
Matters.
division, they have one
Yeah.
division that you can put aftermarket stuff in, they call it unlimited.
Yeah.
And my joke is I've saved a lot of money by shooting Glock matches because the only aftermarket stuff I'm putting on there is maybe sights.
Yeah.
And having RO'd a lot of Glock matches, the ones that have the most trouble with their guns are usually the ones that in the unlimited that put all the aftermarket stuff in there. And
Yeah.
my
Yep.
joke is I think those Austrian engineers probably know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I say, you can take the gun out of the box, and the gun it's on par with every other gun that's there.
Yep.
So there's none of the equipment factor. We'll say if you're shooting the outdoor matches, you need to have at least 4 magazines.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's no equipment race in the sport. And the other thing is if you go put your money on the table and shoot the match, you got just as good a chance at winning a pistol as a prize as the person who shoots the best score in the match does, because there are a lot of random awards that they give out, random prizes. And the more people that are at a match, the more random prizes they give away. And it's not always just a gun. They give away monetary prizes. They give away like Glock swag, that kind of stuff as basically participation trophies.
And
Well, then
Lee,
if you volunteer,
to that,
if you volunteer, you get the opportunity for prizes there too. They usually have a random gun for the volunteers, and then they'll give you like an entry fee. Well, I just have them add that to my account, and I can use it for another match, or get mags or other things from
Jamie, you were about to say something?
yes, sir. Just as an example, at the Oklahoma City match last year, GSSF gave over $20,000 away in prizes to the participants of the match. And that's huge. You do not see that in USPSA. You do not see that in any other discipline. GSSF is amazing with that. I think they don't just award to the top level shooters, the overall shooters. Everybody has a chance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, back before pistol mounted optics took over the world and we all shot with iron sights on our guns, I would register for each match. I would register in the competition division, and then I would register in the Guardian division. And if you're an amateur shooter, there's amateur Guardian and amateur civilian, which are the same thing. You have to pick which one you want to shoot in, and then competition, the Guardians and the civilians are lumped into each other. So I would always shoot the competition as my warm up, and then I would actually try to, if I wanted to experiment or do whatever, and then Guardian was my serious run. Now that I'm shooting an optic gun, I signed up for unlimited and an MOS because I could, with the dot on the gun, I could shoot unlimited. And I use that same strategy at Belton. And guess what? I was not outclassed with my just factory MOS gun against the unlimited guns. So again, it's not an equipment race. Go ahead, Dave.
No, and even the cool thing about it is you can shoot with just a couple, 2 or 3 guns. You can hit 6, 7, 8 of the divisions without having to get specialized or have a pile of guns that you show up with. You see that with folks shooting both the heavy metal, which would be like a G21 and 45, but you can shoot that with a G30. And if you have a G30, which is the compact, you can also shoot major subs. So it's pretty easy to do some of the specialty divisions without really, to your point, getting an equipment race, or I need a pile of guns to do it. And before you know it, you're in 6 divisions, and it doesn't take you long. Yeah.
Well, shoot, a Glock 19 gets you 4 or 5 divisions in and of
Sure
itself.
does. Yeah.
Yes. I shot my
does.
17, I think, in 5 divisions for my first 2 years, because that was the only
Yeah.
Glock that I really liked.
Yeah.
And I had a race gun. I had a unlimited gun that I shot in 3-gun and USPSA. And after a while, I didn't see any benefit to it because it was completely different than all of the guns I was shooting. So I was like, I'm just going to set that aside. I would just rather stay consistent and keep the same trigger pull, same sights. Everything is all still the same. And I performed much better doing that.
Yeah.
What's the interesting thing, and I know all 4 of us are master class with GSSF. Once you get to master class, then they get what they call share a gun. And so you don't have one guy that comes in, if there's enough masters in each division that, wins all 9 guns or 10 guns. But the order of precedence basically goes by when the gun entered the inventory. So the lowest one is the MOS. So unlimited is up there like second or third. And so same strategy Lee has. I shoot unlimited to get ready for MOS. I shoot the same gun in both. It's that, and the same thing with competition. And then we have master stock, which is places the amateur or guardian. It's interesting because a lot of my guns were ones I won. So when I, was able to shoot heavy metal, then I, won a gun for that. And then I, won a gun for major sub. So I'm trying to remember 17 or 18 guns I've won over the years in shooting. And yes, you get a 1099 at the end of the year, and yes, you get pay taxes on it. So
you do.
After my first gun, they were calling me, "What's your social security number? Why you want to know?" "Well, we got to send you a 1099 for the gun you want." I go, "Oh."
Yeah. Yeah, cause I shot my first match in 2009. That was not long after I took over as chief deputy at the sheriff's office. And I went to my sheriff with the idea of the sheriff's office paying for deputies to shoot GSSF matches. And he sat there for a second. He says, I can justify that to any bean counter and anything that I got to go to because of all the positive benefits of it. And so what we opened it up to was anybody that shot over 90 on the state qual was eligible to shoot the GSSF matches on the sheriff's office dime. And so we were actually paying your entry fee, providing your ammunition. You could drive the sheriff's office car to the matches, everything. Sometimes we would team up and like I'll carpool over to them. I would take the sheriff's office credit card and buy everybody lunch. Sometimes the sheriff went with us just to be a cheerleader. And we made a big social event out of it. And there's another thing in the GSSF matches, you can form 3-man teams or 3-person teams. And so what we would do was we had like a little practice match to determine our ranking for the first match. And the top 3 were one team, the next 3 were another team. And from then on, whatever your finish was in the previous actual Glock match was your seeding to be on the team at the next match. And so it got to be an internal thing amongst us is, I want to be on the top team. I want to be in the top 3 just within the sheriff's office to go. And we did that for a while. At the time, there were 3 Glock matches, outdoor matches within an hour and a half of us. And there were a couple of indoor leagues, and there was a couple of us that were going and shooting the indoor matches as well. The sheriff's office was paying for all of that. And, it was fun. Gradually it faded away and the like. I missed that part of it. I wish that would have stayed going. I may try to start rounding up some of my coworkers now to see if I can get them involved in it and get them going, because we all shoot Glocks at work, and see if they can get going. But it was just all the different ways we could compete that had nothing to do with where we finished in the actual standings.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of it, right? Is everybody finds something to compete in it, right? And you guys created your own competition within it.
Right.
Because I guarantee the car ride home had a lot of trash talking in
Oh yeah.
it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And being retired law enforcement, I can imagine.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, there was one match at South River, which is just south of Atlanta. That's was at the time the Big Daddy. That's now moved to Talladega. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I have to apologize to my grandmother. The correct pronunciation is Talladega, because she's from there.
Oh, okay.
Was from there. We took grills and everything, and it was like a tailgate at a football game. We
Yeah.
drove over, we set up, we cooked lunch, we did everything else. There was trash talk. And it's like, all right,
Yeah.
well, let's go settle this.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go settle this. And went down and to shoot the plates or shoot the match, and
Yeah.
come back, and then it was, you know, come back, I'll add up the scores and everything else, and then it was like everybody standing around like, I told you I had you today, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, that was back in the days before the new online leaderboard, where they're constantly updating the
Oh,
scores.
yeah.
We all had our
Yeah.
little yellow sheets, and we're adding them up on our phones, and
Yeah.
I got a whatever,
Yep.
and bragging
Yeah.
rights just in that little group.
And you got the one friend who can add, so he thinks he beats you. Yeah. Yeah.
David, no, geez.
That's right.
Oh, here's one of the quirks of the Glock matches is you can pre-register online. Back in the day, you had to have it faxed by like 2 o'clock on Wednesday. Now
Oh,
you can
okay.
register online, pay with a credit card, and the like. But there's no assigned shooting time.
Right.
And so if you show up and there's 12 people waiting to shoot at a station, well, then you're waiting through 12 people. But the sign-in procedure is when you arrive at the range, you go to each station and you sign your name on the book. And you go around and do all of that because that gives you order of precedence for when you want to shoot. When you actually arrive at a station that you want to shoot, you go up and you put an X by your name, and they put you in line based on when you actually signed in.
Mhm.
And it was kind of funny. One of my buddies went with us to a match, and he didn't understand that. And I walked around to every station as soon as I got there and signed in. Well, there was like multiple, like 5 Glock stations at this match. And I had signed in at each one of them, figured I'd come back and see where the shortest line was, and that's where I would shoot. He came behind me thinking I had messed up and marked my name out on some of the books. Oh man, I gave him just fits for that. And when I shot at Belton the other day, I sent him a text message that afternoon. I was like, hey, I shot a Glock match today for the first time in forever. It sure was easier without somebody scratching my name out in the book.
Imagine that.
Imagine
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
that's one of the contrasts. We need to give SIG some mention here with the Shoot SIG.
Yeah.
With them, you sign up via practice score, and you sign up for the time that you want to shoot.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, they do, what is it, four squad or 4 guns in a squad, and they'll do a start time that you pick. And so if you're shooting one gun, you just grab a time. If you're shooting multiple, you're your own squad, and kind of look through that. But yeah, you sign up for a time, and they do a really nice job of moving it through. So you show up at your assigned time, and Jamie had a team of squad moms, and she needs to give them props because they did an excellent job of running the match. But they'll shepherd you to the first stage, and that's really kind of the kickoff of your introduction to Shoot Sig is the stage briefing. And I made Kemet do that a million times this past Saturday. He was tired of giving the stage briefing, but you start on the plates there and kind of work your way through, and everybody shoots it in the same order. So in the Glock side, you can sign into the book as you were describing, and you kind of start where you want to, and everybody's got their top secret strategy of where they start and why. And Shoot Sig is very different from that, in that everybody starts at the same place and you start at a time, and then you get shepherded through, it's a very different experience.
Okay. Yeah, I always save the plates for last at a Glock match. And
You're not the
Well-
only
No,
one.
no, 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 no.
I RO a lot, and I a lot of times end up ROing on plates, and the match starts at 9 o'clock. And so we're down there on plate racks, and people who haven't RO'd on plates before really don't understand. Nobody wants to shoot plates first. I said, about 11 o'clock, we're going to be overwhelmed with people wanting to shoot plates because everybody starts somewhere else. Now, my strategy is I always start on plates first because there's never a line at 9 o'clock.
Yeah. You know how your day's gonna go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kemet, could you give the audience a rundown of the stages involved in a Glock match and then versus contrast that with the stages in a SIG match?
Both matches have 3 stages. The GSSF has the plate rack. They have what they call 5 o'clock, which is there's different arrays of targets, but there's 5 targets. A lot of times they'll start and go straight out, or maybe they could be in a V or an M. Then they have the Glock M, which is paper and then a steel. Uh, they call it a stop plate, but you can shoot them in any order. In fact, in any of the stages of GSSF, it's shooter's choice on which order you want to shoot them in. If you're shooting a standard capacity gun, you're going to be 2 rounds per paper, 1 on steel. On the plate rack, shoot 1 on steel. The lower capacity, like the pocket Glocks or the major subs, they have like a 6 or 7 round capacity. Then it's just 1 on paper. And those are the ones that get you on the plate rack because you're just smoking along. You can get 1 makeup on the low capacity ones. On the Shoot Sig, they have 3 stages. They have the plate rack. They have a paper stage is in a shape of a V, and you go out to the left, and then you go out to the right, and then you have the one that looks like a steel challenge, 8-inch plates on about 5-foot poles, and there's 6 of them, and they actually have a stop plate that you have to shoot in that order. The Shoot Sig will shoot 4 instances on 3 on plates, 2 on paper, 3 on the steel, and they drop their worst score. So it's kind of like Steel Challenge has that similar type of rule. I've explained that to the GSSF staff several times, and they just kind of nod their head and smile. That on the Glock, there's 4 mags on plates and then 3 on the other 2. So you end up with 10 mags. But again, minimum's 4, and then you can reload between stages. But it's always interesting because I've been to enough of these matches for GSSF that if I see a certain group of people on a certain stage, it's like I'll come back in an hour. I like the ideal of squatting with Shoot Sig because again, you move through and you know what time to be there and what time. It takes about 45 minutes to shoot all 3 stages for that. And the GSSF, again, it depends on who starts where, what time you start on it. You can go in and think you're going to get all 3 stages done, and you might be there. I remember one match we waited 2 hours because right in the middle of the match they decided that everybody was going to go to lunch and they didn't have enough volunteers to man it's just whatever strategy that you're wanting to look at.
Yeah, I learned with certain Glock matches that if I could not go on a Sunday morning, that I didn't go. One in particular was very bad about on Saturday at lunchtime, as you were just describing, just bogged down to a complete mess. And it was funny. I was at one of those matches, and an individual that I know who was very, very even keeled and does not get upset often at all, got very upset about how bad that one bogged down. So I was kind of curious with the SIG, with the assigned start time, you could avoid all that. The match that I shot Belton 2 weeks ago, I was in and out of the actual range in less than an hour. But I've also arrived at 9 in the morning and been there till 2 in the afternoon. for some matches as well. And so it's kind of luck of the draw on a Glock match, whereas the SIG looks a little better organized. Jamie, any organizational thoughts you have?
I can add to the squad mom part if that's okay.
Sure.
So we have designated squad moms, and I think that we are kind of the front line to introduce the shooters and kind of get to know them before we even take them down to the first stage. Our job, we have a tablet, and so the shooters are required, these are the Shoot Sig matches. The shooters are required to come in 15 minutes before their start time. And so they arrive, check in at the desk, and then they just kind of hang out and wait. And the squad moms were given the tablets, and we walk out, we call their names, and we ask them, introduce ourselves, ask them, have you done this before? And then proceed with whatever direction that we need to go. We are really the ones that are answering a lot of the questions throughout the match. So it's really important that we know what's happening and kind of what to expect, and kind of ease their nerves and help them load mags, or kind of walk them through the process. And so I had my ladies pistol league along with a couple of the other match directors' wives. We were the squad moms, and it happened to be, we've all done this before with the exception of one of the girls, and we did this last year in November. So we had some experience, and that worked out really, really well. And that's probably my favorite part, is walking them around to each of the stages. We're really busy doing that all day long because they start squads every 15 minutes. And you can get through the entire, I think all 3 stages within an hour with those 4 guns or 4 shooters through all 3 stages. So it moves pretty quick. And to me, the flow is really good. I really like having the tablet. The timers are synced to the tablet, so it's really easy to put the time in. And then we, as the squad mom, are also the scorekeepers. And so the RO is calling out the scores to us, and we're putting them in the tablets as well. So we're kind of multitasking, but I think that's why it runs so well with the timelines like that.
There you go. That to me makes a whole lot more sense. And it's one thing that I hope Glock adopts with theirs. Of course, as long as it took Glock to accept online payments, we may be a while. Oh gosh, I'm equal opportunity offending both companies today.
There you go. Well, we've talked to them, and they're still doing everything on paper.
Yeah.
So when you're a scorekeeper, you're putting everything on paper, getting the shooter to initial it, then it goes up, and they've got a person in the registration area that does the 10 key hand thing, just click, 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 putting it all in there. Of course, that's always behoove you to check your scores, because they that thing. And when talking to them, you got to realize, where do they make money? They make money by selling guns, so that's where they're going to put their resources. We're trying to explain to them that this is probably one of the better marketing deals they got going. Just come and look at what I bought from Glock just to do this. But if they don't want to use practice score, which I don't blame them, because SIG has a lot invested in practice score. They're one of the title sponsors of practice score. But Glock is talking about getting their own system where they'll have the tablets. I mean, the technology is there to run the timer to the tablet. The priority to get the IP.
We're getting a lot of feedback from somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it's coming from.
Yeah, I hear it too. I don't know if it's me.
It's funny you mentioned all the stuff that you buy, even though you're a competitive right out of the box with your gun. I bought 2 new Glock mags this week specifically for GSSF, and I'll explain that here in just a second. Now, here's another reason to shoot Glock matches, is that at a lot of them, they have boxes of $10 magazines.
Yeah.
And so at Belton, I picked up 5 more G19 mags, and then 5 more of the 17 rounders that will work in my 45 and all the other stuff. And oh gosh, I've probably got 25, 30 mags for Glock, and both the the 15 round and the 17 round ones. Somewhere along the way, I picked up 4 OD green 17 round mags, and I was using those as my training mags when I was shooting the 45s. I never carried with those because, you know, God says you're supposed to carry with a black gun. So I never carried with those. When I went to shoot the match in Belton, I loaded all of my OD green mags with 11 rounds and all of my black mags with 10. And so the 11 round mag was my first starting mag, and I was shooting a Glock 45 in that. I did pick up a 19 with Toccoa on it on a Wednesday, so I don't know if that lets me shoot it in a match this weekend or not. So I'm back to a 19 with an optic on it. So I came home and I ordered 2 OD green 19 mags so that if I go take that mag to shoot it in a Glock, the OD will be my 11 round mags and my black ones will be the 10 round mags. You start each stage with 10+1 in Glock. I'm not sure what the rule is in SIG.
Same. You can have up to 11 in the gun.
Okay. Now in Glock, you have amateur and master, and those are the only 2 real levels. Now there are special categories, ladies, senior, super senior, all that kind of stuff in the Glock amateur divisions. SIG has an interesting thing in that they have theirs broken down as certain time thresholds you qualify for different levels. And it's like bronze 3, 2 and 1, silver 3, 2 and 1, gold 3, 2 and 1, with 1 being the highest. And so if you hit a certain time threshold in the match, they award you a token or a coin with what that you've achieved a certain level. And so that's somewhere you can chase just as commitment. You're competing against yourself. All right, at the last match I made silver 3. This match I want to move up to silver 2. And David, you told a really good story in the pre-show about a young lady in a match.
Yeah, we working the match this weekend. A young lady came. She was shooting with her dad, and it was really kind of cool watching him introduce her to shooting. She had shot very, very little, but having a great time. And I happened to go up to the clubhouse when they were getting their final scores and just checking out at the end of the day. And they were going through to find out exactly that. What coin did I get? And so dad gets a silver 3, I think it was, and they look up her times and she got a bronze coin. But the look on her face of getting something, I accomplished this, I got rewarded. You know, I love the idea of just giving a new shooter something that says, hey, I did this, I have a keepsake, and I earned something, right? I shot and I pulled this off, and she'll never forget it, right? It'll be one of those prized possessions now for her. And I really just love that about the SIG side. I think Glock could learn something there as you're introducing new shooters. Hey, what did I accomplish and how do I recognize that? I really, really appreciated that on the SIG shoot. I thought it was very cool.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Kim?
On the coins?
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes back to, I've used that because I've shot 4 of the Shoot Sig matches, and being able to see that my own progression with the silver 3, 2, 1. I haven't got a gold one yet, so I still have that out there.
Jamie, any thoughts on the?
Yeah, I really like the coin. They're just poker chips. I have a few of them myself, and I'm quite proud of them. It is a way to kind of measure your own skills, and that's really the way it is designed. It's not designed for you to see how you rank up against other people. The score sheets will show that in the end, but this is really something you can take home and be proud of. And I know a lot of our new ladies that came out this past weekend and shot the match were really excited that they got their first coin for the very first time, and we're looking forward to it. So again, I think it is something that GSSF could learn something from this. Maybe not follow the same idea with poker chips, obviously, but just something of the same concept. I think it's a great idea. I think we should reward our new shooters.
Those things are $1 a piece
I
at both
know.
prices. You know, just that girl that you're talking about getting awarded that thing, if that makes her into a lifetime shooter, if that lit the flame for her, that's somebody that's going to vote to protect Second Amendment.
Yeah.
That's someone that they're going to be in the marketplace. On a different podcast years ago, I was part of a panel that was interviewing Steve Anderson, who was a very prodigious USPSA shooter. And he brought up the fact that there's not just gun people and anti-gun people. There's actually three categories. There's gun people, there's non-gun people, and then there's anti-gun people. And that non-gun is kind of that big swing group in the middle that when you get the people that start bringing up so-called common sense, gun regulation, and they start talking about these high capacity mags. Well, those non-gun people will sit there going, well, I don't see the big deal about that. They're not trying to take away their guns, and they're not gun people. They don't see all the downside of all of that. And if we can just turn some of those non-gun people into gun people, and they don't have to be diehard out there doing this every weekend or whatever, but that's what this can do. Be it Glock, be it Sig. I'm going to go ahead and say I really wish there could be a brand agnostic shooting sport that kind of followed this same pattern, because I really want to show up and shoot my CZ P10C. Which I know that's one of the differences too between the Glock and the Sig matches, is that Sig you can show up and shoot in other, but there's no prizes for that category.
I shot my Glock 45 last weekend in the other.
Yeah, I really would love to see some sort of similar format sport that would come out that would be brand agnostic, and maybe somebody will hear this and we'll organize that. The first match will be in Oklahoma City whenever Jamie puts it together.
There
How
you
about
go.
that?
I'm in.
You'll be here. You'll be here for bronze.
That's right.
I do have one thing I would like to add that is really
Sure.
different. With Shoot Sig and GSSF. At Shoot Sig, you can buy ammunition, and they will loan you their firearms. So you can actually show up that match and actually not own a Sig if you want to try out their guns. They also have a demo bay, which is very unique also, and they have like all of their high-end stuff, and those guys are great over there. Everybody loves the demo bay, and you get to shoot their ammo for free. As long as you sign, I mean, even if you're not a participant and you sign the waiver, you can go over there. So like if you're a spectator there with your family and you don't want to shoot the match, but you can go to the demo bay too after, you sign your waiver. So being able to use my first match, I only had one Sig and I shot it. And then I used all of Sig's guns to shoot the rest of the divisions that I shot in my very first match. And it was a good experience. I literally just got to walk up to the table. The mags are already loaded. I just walk up, you have a little lanyard that you wear so they know that you need a loaner, essentially. And they have them at the table. You don't walk around with their guns or anything like that, but the mags are loaded. I literally just like walked up. I kind of felt spoiled.
There you go. You don't even have to own the gun. Just show up and shoot shoot theirs.
It was $20. I mean, that's a box of ammo. So, I mean, it's really very inexpensive and an easy way to get in there. I mean, I was like, oh, I'm gonna try that PCC. I've never shot the Sig PCC, and that was a lot of fun. And I just used their ammo the very first time I ever did it. So
there you go.
They bring a customer service rep with them, and at the match you can purchase anything off their website with a 20% discount, and the customer service rep will do that. And the Sig mags they're quite proud of their mags, and so that 20% discount helps. Now they didn't have it at this match, but they've had it at other matches where they've had like Glock, but they charge $20 for their mags, but their mags are anywhere between 40 and $50. So $20 is not a bad deal for us for a Sig mag. But if you're an NRA instructor, SIG has a program, and those are about 25% off. And so the last year when I shot, I used their PCCs, and this year I got my NRA instructor discount on a PCC. And so that's the one I shot this year. And then Jamie got to shoot that one this year too.
Yeah.
One thing that we should also discuss that I think would apply to both, and it goes back to that non-intimidation factor and the welcoming factor. Um, there were two couples that arrived at the belt match same time I did. They were done. I don't know that I want to use the word elderly, but they were significantly older than I am, and I'm in my 50s. One of the gentlemen was using a walker to get around, and he took that walker right up to the firing line, and he could stand there in that one spot and shoot. He's not going to be able to do a USPSA match that way. He's not going to be able to do an IDPA match that way. Probably could do Steel Challenge, except there in Steel Challenge, there is that one where you move from one box to the other. But I think they've got something for disabled people in that. That's just one more thing of the welcoming atmosphere. It keeps people that have mobility issues and stuff. Folks, you can shoot these matches.
There was a guy at Cherryville 2 years ago that was shooting with his foot. He
Oh
was
wow,
sitting in a chair and shooting with his foot. So I mean,
wow,
they have a category called challenged,
yeah.
and, but yeah, it's very accessible, and I've seen the wheelchair. But we had one at our match a couple of years ago, had a motorized wheelchair. So it's and along that same line, you were talking about Second Amendment, the juniors. Like at our match, Jamie's organized the last several years, getting a team from another gun club of juniors to come and shoot the match.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it
Yeah,
gives
we
us
raise
more
a lot of
diversity.
money for those kids to pay for their memberships and their entries, and our club helps with their ammunition. And then we also have the training division at Oklahoma City Gun Club. We have lots of loaners to help the juniors and the ladies league participate. That's part of why we're so successful in those two particular categories.
Well, there you go. There you go. I presume this same thing would apply to the SIG matches. It was one of the things that was always my favorite thing about uh, GSSF. There used to be a very thriving IDPA community in North Georgia. It's kind of what it wavered here of late. There were some guys that in the IDPA side that I could not come close to beating. As a matter of fact, we had one local guy that ended up making, I think he made Distinguished Master eventually. And to do that, you have to finish within 3% of the national or international champion, if I remember the rules correctly. So it was a pretty big deal that we had a local guy make Distinguished Master. I couldn't touch him in IDPA. I beat him by 20 seconds at a Glock match. So that tells me how much big of a deal that the ability to move in and out of stage firing positions, your stage planning, yeah, all of that kind of stuff goes into effect. Like I said, as I've been watching videos this week and I see the guys like, okay, when do you shoot the activator so it starts swinging so that you can move this other target and come back and get it when it's out? All of that's out the window. And it's show up and shoot fast and accurately. And you can win. And like I've seen some demos of the Shoot Sig matches online with some of the big names, some of their pro shooters. And it's like, all right, I'm probably not going to beat those guys, but I'm not going to be embarrassed either.
Yeah.
Yep. It really levels the playing field on a lot of this type of stuff. So I think that's why it's so welcoming too. You know, you
Yeah.
don't feel like you have to have the race gun. You don't have to have all this fancy gear. You don't have to be super athletic. It just levels the playing field. You all are starting at the same point and go from there. I mean, it's shooting and shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had, I can always tell somebody that shot a lot of USPSA in the first GSSF match they show up to, and they try to do a makeup shot. It's like, oh, we don't do that here. Do you want to reshoot that? Okay.
Yeah.
Or they shoot really fast and they have, you know, a lot of outliers.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And you know, GSSF and even you know, Shoot Sig is accuracy and speed, not just
Mhm.
Yep.
speed.
Yep. In my MOS division shoot, I had 3 seconds of penalty time. and you take those 3 seconds away, and I moved up into the top 5, I think it was. And the preliminary scores came out, I was 11th, and I think I mentioned that in the last episode. When the finals came out, I was 10th. So I don't know what happened to one of the people that was ahead of me. Looks like 3 seconds would have been the difference in, oh gosh, 4 or 5 places.
Yeah.
And those 3 seconds were penalty points for accuracy. And I like that because I've seen
Yeah.
people shoot USPSA and IDPA that will take a down one or I think it's a Charlie in USPSA because they can do it fast enough that the time penalty doesn't affect them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the scoring difference even in Shoot Sig to GSSF. GSSF is heavier penalty laden.
Mm-hmm.
So the accuracy to your point, right? Those 3 seconds, right? It's what you could have just hesitated a second and put those in as good solid hits matters.
Yeah.
It's not as you can go a little faster and shoot sig and take that half-second penalty. And it's like I can just burn this one. And you do see that a little bit different in the strategy. You can outrun penalties in that one. You can't in GSSF. You just cannot outrun the penalties. Yeah.
Right. And I love that.
Yeah.
In the Glock matches, there's a 1 second penalty if you're in the first outer ring on the scoring target. There's a 3 second penalty if you're still on the target but outside of that scoring ring. And then it's a 5 second penalty, I think, if you miss the target.
It's 10 seconds. You
10
miss.
seconds.
10 seconds. Right?
Oh yeah, that's a big ouch.
Yeah. And then any plate left standing is a 10-second
Right.
penalty. Shoot sig, if I remember correctly, just from reading the rules, everything's a half-second penalty for their first outside. Right. Then I lose it after that. Dave,
yeah, it's a half, and then a 1.5, and then a 2, and then a 3.
Yeah, and if you miss a
Is that
plate,
right?
3. Yeah.
Oh, 0.5, 1, 2, and then 3 is the miss.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you could run a little faster and take a few more chances.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can try to outrun them on the shoot sig side, and you see it. You see guys testing the boundaries on that. It's especially with the right and left stages. Kim, it was mentioned on the paper. You'll see someone shoot the left side on the shoot sig, and they'll just burn it down. And then you see them. Okay, I need to get good hits here because I'm not sure what I landed at the back at that 20-yard target. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a lot of, just looking at the scores on the shoot sig, I see a lot of tighter competition. I mean, there'd be like 1/100th of a difference between shooters.
Mhm.
I don't see that as tight in GSSF. I know I was 39th overall at the shoot sig, but that's only about a 5.5 second difference from the #1 shooter. So it's a lot tighter.
Yeah.
Out of
But there you go. You're not
211
getting
people.
you're not getting embarrassed at that point, though.
No, not at all. I wasn't embarrassed at all. I was pretty pleased.
Yeah.
I was trying to get 22nd was my goal, and I got a 20:08 or 20:09. So I'm very pleased.
And she beat me with my own gun too.
You're used to it. It's okay.
There you go. I need to get Hearn to show up one of these so I can beat him with a SIG at a SIG match because I know
Hey,
he
there you
shoots
go.
SIG. So,
You shoot SIG, so
yeah, he does shoot the demon gun. So it's
Yeah.
see, I'm equal opportunity offender for
There you
everybody
go.
in this company. So, the only SIGs I own are the 365 family. And so if I were to shoot the one that's in a SIG with an optic, I'd be shooting a 365 with an optic against the 320s, the 226s,
Yeah.
everything else. I know there's a separate 365 category that can shoot that with. But yeah, again, I'm just competing against me.
well, last year I only had the 1 SIG, and I ended up with 5 guns last year. And so I beefed up my arsenal. So now I have a gun for every division with the exception of PCC.
Wow, that you won from shooting matches?
Yep.
That's
You
a
can
pretty
max
good
out
return
at
on your
2. Yeah, it was.
pretty good return on your
Yes, it
investment.
was.
So go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. So what all did you win?
I won 2 P322s. I got 1 comp and 1 regular. and I won a 365 optics. I won that for being an RO, so that wasn't a
Okay.
performance win.
Okay.
And then I won 2 320s. I turned one, and you can upgrade them. So I turned one into a DH3, threw a SIG optic on it through the NRA program. We get really good discounts on those type of things too. And then left the other one iron, so I can have a gun for every division. And then I just borrowed the PCC.
When you win a gun in SIG, do they say you've won this particular gun, or is it a certificate for like a
Yeah,
Glock? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, they give you a certificate and they just email it to you and it tells you what gun it's for. And then it's usually up to the value of that. And then you can use that towards an upgrade, or you can just
Okay.
get that. And the nice thing is you get it usually within like 10 days.
Okay.
Yeah,
Lot different
GSSF takes
than
4 or 5
GSSF.
months.
Right.
What's that? What was that, Kenneth?
So the GSSF will take 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
It depends when they're producing it. I had one took 8 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a downside of GSSF. You win a certificate, you redeem it, and you can upgrade with GSSF too, but it's the wait time. And
Yeah.
the one I got probably the soonest, I'd run out of guns to pick from, so I got me a 45 gap. And I'm still trying to figure out why I did that, but anyways, it's kind of a neat little gun. But
Yeah.
I got it like within a month. And I said, and then I found out now they're not making them anymore. And I said, well, that's probably why I got it so fast, because they're getting rid of the inventory.
Oh gosh, back in the day when I was really heavy in GSSF, I had a local distributor.
Oh, okay.
And if I had a certificate, I just walked in and they gave me one out of inventory. And
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
when the one came in for that, they just put it in their thing
Yeah.
for sales. So I got it right off the bat. But I read online it's taking like 3 months.
Yeah, they don't
Well,
do
they
that
do
anymore.
electronic certificates now, GSSF does, so you don't actually get the paper one.
Okay.
So I think, because you could just redeem it all online. You just type in your FFL's number and
Okay.
so you don't really have to, I mean, unless you do it you win it in an indoor match where you do get a certificate, but
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, because I used to do that too. I would just take it over to my FFL, that's a blue label dealer, and do
Mhm.
the little switcheroo, but you can't do
Yeah.
that anymore.
Yeah. Kemet, the 45 gap. Oh, you're hitting my nostalgia button here. I actually carried a Glock 38, model 38, which is 45 gap
Yeah.
for a couple of years. The Georgia State Patrol adopted the 37 as their duty gun when the gap first came out, and the place where they were getting their practice ammo was in the neighboring county to me. And so I just told that guy, I was like, whenever they do an order and you're making ammo, make several thousand overrun for me, call me, I'll come get it.
Yeah.
And so that was my source for practice ammo. And I bought a 37 and a 38, and I really loved that 38. It was a tax driver. And
Is
so
that
I
the
was,
size of that's the size of a 19?
the size is the 19.
Yeah, I've got a 37 and a 39.
Yeah.
But,
My boss bought a 38 and a 39. And kind of saying he was right regular telling me, oh, that 45 gap's a question to an answer to a question nobody asked, all that kind of stuff. And I managed to get him on the range at the same time where there was a demo gun available, and I loaded it and handed it to him without saying a word. And he fired the first couple of shots at me and just looked at me, and I can't say on air what he said to me after that. And that was on a weekend, and we went Monday, and each of us bought our GAF guns, and then we were getting our practice ammo from that source. When the troopers dropped the 45 gap, I lost my source of practice ammo, so I ended up selling mine. It was kind of a sad day, because that was my 38 was a freaking laser beam. Just an absolute tack driver. I wasn't quite as crazy about the 37, but my 38 was fantastic.
you
And
can shoot those in heavy metal.
yep.
Yeah. I see them RO and most of them are really quick because there's a lost brass match, but they'll ask me, can I pick up my brass? Like, oh yeah, 45 gap, I'll let you pick that up, because the 45 guys are all gonna be pissed off when they get this thing in their batch of ammo, like, what's this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Dave has a funny story about what he shoots in the any SIG pistol match or whatever the division's called.
Yeah, I shoot 1911. Sig made a Max Michel 1911 for 2-3 years maybe, and I shoot the old school iron 1911 heavy. Every time I pull it out of the bag, they tell me it has to be a Sig. I show them the side of it, and I didn't know they made that. It's 9mm. It's hilarious every time. Yeah, love that thing. It is great.
We saw a couple of guns. We saw a couple of the Max Michels over the weekend, and then I had one gentleman, an older gentleman that came through. It was his first time of doing any type of match at all, and he had a SIG 1911 22, and we had to show the ROs a few things about that. That's a little bit persnickety, you know, as far as dropping the hammer and stuff like that with no mag, and so we've seen some really cool stuff come through that, you know, are older model SIGs. My husband has a SIG Nightmare 1911 and 45 that I used to shoot bowling pins with, and I love that gun. They don't make it anymore, and I would love to have one of my own. Maybe a 9mm though. I wish they made a 9mm.
Yeah, I think.
1911.
Yeah, I think when we were ROing, I saw a P210. A guy shot a
Yeah.
P210. I saw 226s, 229s, a bunch of 3. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really matter what SIG you have. If it says SIG on the side of it and it shoots a caliber above 22, you're pretty good. They'll let it rip.
Yep. And there's
And they
actually
don't
a
care if
22
you,
category.
yeah, you can also do all the modifications. They're not managing or micromanaging any of that. Just come one, come all, you know, so.
Yeah.
And in the 322 division, you can run an optic or irons. It's all in one category, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I was not in the market for a 322, but after seeing the Shoot Sig thing, I'm looking for that. That's something that I may end up getting specifically to shoot the Shoot Sig match. And
It's a fun gun. I like it better than the Glock 44.
Because it has a dot on it.
Yeah.
That too. Just don't get the Romeo Zero.
Yeah, put
Romeo
all the sun on
Zero is
it.
appropriately named.
yeah. Yeah, so when Jamie organizes her brand agnostic whatever match there'll be, you can run whatever in that as well. So we're putting a lot on you, Jamie. You have to make us all happy.
I'll pull out of GSSF and go a different way.
Yeah.
They might not like that though.
I credit GSSF in particular, but competition shooting to a very rapid increase in my shooting skill. And I guess this would be kind of this will be our general benefits of competition section, I guess.
There you go.
As I said earlier, I'd show up at a cop match or a cop class, and I'd always be in the top 3 shooters, but it was always shooting against par times and the like. I go shoot this GSSF match, and all of a sudden you're shooting against the running timer and everything. And that was, the first match, I was like, oh, wow, I really got to burn it down. And then I learned how to kind of moderate that and not be scared of the timer. And, I show up to my first IDPA match and I'm thinking, oh, I'll do okay here. And, the proverbial printer repairman smoked me. And it's like, okay, there's a different level of good here. And I've got to up my game. And the biggest thing was just not being intimidated by the timer. And I got to tell you, after having shooting against the running timer on the competition side, when I go back and I shoot like a qualification course now, there's no stress on me whatsoever as far as the part times goes. And I learned how to do target math. My internal clock's a little broken right now, but I could used to look at a shooting problem and tell you exactly what time I would shoot it in within pretty close tenths of seconds and everything. And like I can diagnose that target to that distance or whatever, that's a whatever problem. everything else. My clock's a little broken right now, but I learned all of that from shooting competition. And so it's one of the things, now in the job that I'm in, everything is trying to relay to the students is the time's really not that big of a deal. Don't stress over that, or that's whatever. Um, that's what I gained from shooting competition. And, I'm kind of at a gateway walking back into that a little bit now. I'm kind of re-energized on that. Mago Steel Challenge, because it's just, if there were more Glock matches in my area, I wouldn't worry about anything else. But I may shoot some Steel Challenge just for accessibility. The reason I got into IDPA back and when I did was because Glock matches were only every few months, where I could go shoot an IDPA match several times a month if I wanted to in my area. Not really interested in doing that again, but the Steel Challenge may be interesting. David, do you have any comments?
No, it's funny. I've tried them all or a little bit, and I think Steel Challenge is probably the closest to GSSF.
Mhm.
And as Kim had said, there's a nice tie into the Shoot Sig side as well, where it's not about this, to your point, the stage plan and the strategy of this, or who moves the best or best athlete. You have to be a good shooter, and you have to be able to transition hard, see the target, acquire sights fast, do those things. That's what I think. What I probably really draws me to it. I'm with you though. I'm jonesing for some Steel Challenge. I think because shooting the Sig match this past weekend and ringing the steel, there's just something about that it's a good time. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and it's funny. I was looking at some of the stuff like, okay, rimfire. I've got a 22-45. I can go shoot that. It won't cost much ammunition wise. Then I start looking at what some of the other people shoot, and they're like shooting a $1,500 version of a 22-45. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, Lee, you're competing against yourself. You don't have to go spend all that money and everything. That's what you don't get at the Glock mags, as we've already just pull it out of the box and go shoot.
Yeah, it's not an arms race, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Kim,
Yeah, you can't buy a good score just because you got the most expensive gun on the line doesn't mean you're going to get good score. And I learned that in golf. I couldn't buy a good score in golf either. So, but the the fundamentals are all there, and just being able to put the fundamentals together, getting the transitions, move your eyes, move the gun, those types of things. And I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying about that timer, because I tell people that's a box of induced stress. We
Mhm.
talk about it in self-defense classes. How do you know how you're going to handle stress in a self-defense situation? And the closest you can get to that without, getting yourself in a Walmart parking lot somewhere is the shoot competitions. Get used to what happens when the beep goes off, when you're able to see what's going, where you're going, be able to start where you start calling your shots. I pretty much know by the time I walk down range to score where I'm at, and I usually know when I've had a flyer out or it went bang instead of click or something like that. And the RO will come up and says, yeah, I did that. I'll tell you exactly when I did that. So
Mhm.
those are the types of things that you get from the competition. And it's a good confidence builder as well. Being able to see what you're able to do, move, uh, do the transitions right. And there is some stage planning when you look at some of the different target arrays,
Yeah.
and there's some that are faster than others, some that aren't, and it's not like, the USPSA I think, in my own opinion, about 90% of USPSA is your strategy. How are you going to approach the stage, you know? And I don't run a gun anymore, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I may have told this in the last episode, but I'll still tell it again here. I was shooting a state champion IDPA match, and I was shooting for a sponsor slot. And so I was shooting Friday, and one of the big time sponsor shooters was shooting on Friday as well. And I got called as the number one shooter for a stage. And so I go up there and they're giving, the whole rundown thing. And I'm like, I've kind of got my plan in my head. And he just walked up behind me and very quietly, but only I could hear what he was saying. He's like, uh, if it was me, this is how I would do it. And he like gave me his stage plan. I'm going, That's a lot better than what I was thinking of. But no, also back then I was going, I can't make that shot that he's talking about doing that, because it was like shoot the activator, catch this other target over here, come back and hit the swinging target because it'll be out at that point instead of shooting it and waiting on it. And I was like, all right, I'm not good enough for that. Now maybe, but back then, no. But so much of that just goes into, you know, having the confidence and stuff to do that and the ability to do that. And while there's some of that in GSSF, like there's different ways you could shoot the target arrays that may make a little bit of difference. It's really, there's not activating swinging targets. There's not moving in and out of positions and
Right.
stuff. So you don't have to worry about all of that. Miss Jamie.
I always encourage people to shoot competition. Competition is kind of where I started with my shooting adventure, I guess you could say. And I think that it has contributed a lot to my success in all ways, whether it be in defensive shooting or teaching, coaching, as well as other, styles and disciplines of matches. It's helped me become more competent with my firearms. I have different brands. In my world, shooting is shooting. I can pick up any gun. It doesn't matter. I'm not so intimidated by it. Well, that's not the kind that I normally shoot, so I won't shoot it well. I have no fear of that because I know my skills and ability, but I gained that confidence through competition. And I think it's a good way to measure your progress. It may not be for everybody. Where we're at in Oklahoma City, the Oklahoma City Gun Club, we are very fortunate that we have all styles of and disciplines of shooting matches. And we have matches every weekend. And so we have Steel Challenge and USPSA and GSSF and Shoot Sig practice matches, Steel Challenge. We have all of the things. And so it's right in our backyard. So I always encourage those that are around me to try it. It's really not as hard as you think.
And just go compete against yourself.
Yes.
Yep.
Don't worry about what the rest of the field does. Just go compete against yourself. I've had matches that I finished lower in the standings where I thought I shot better than matches where I finished higher in the standings. And it's like, okay, I beat me today. And that's all you can worry about is just use it to make yourself better. All right, we'll go around for any closing thoughts everyone has. Dave?
Yeah, I'm with Jamie. I think just go out and do it. It's not intimidating. You will make a friend. Try it. It's an easy way to get into the sport. Everybody who does it generally comes back, and unless there's just something crazy, you're going to get hooked. And just do it. You will get better as a shooter. You'll get better at how you handle stress. You will learn a lot about yourself. And to your point, compete against yourself, do it multiple times, and you'll find a pathway.
Kim?
Yeah, echo what the other ones have said, and I think it's it gets us a purpose. People are trying to figure out, why do I want to buy a gun? And with GSSF, they've been doing this for 30 years, and they tell you that it shows there's a sporting purpose for the handguns that we have. Not just a military weapon or a police weapon, and it's that shooting competitions is again a way to get you familiar with it. It gets you into the shooting sports. Both Shoot Sig and GSSF are designed for the beginning shooters to move into competitions. And there's enough competition in those among themselves, but it's something that I think it's really a good opportunity for anybody. The cat just knocked over my water bottle.
Miss Jamie?
I think, I agree with these guys. I think Shoot Sig and GSSF is a great gateway into shooting competitions in general. Low stress. There's a great opportunities to win things if that's what you're into. But more importantly, you really build like a family and a camaraderie with everyone that's there. We're very welcoming. I have never had a bad experience, and I just it's more of a, both of them are really family events, which is really important to me. I love seeing the kids out there with their parents. I love seeing the grandparents out there. Everybody's cheering each other on. And to me, that's more important than, winning a match or anything like that. It's just you're building a community, and that's our future.
Yep. All right. And one of the reasons why we're ending the episode now is that it was bright sunlight coming through the window when I sat down, and I did not turn on the light. And it's now getting dark, and I can't reach the light switch from where I'm at. So we'll be wrapping this up here just momentarily. Camaraderie has been mentioned here. Back during all this time when I was actively shooting competitively, one of the local clubs has had a match that was, the term for outlaw, didn't belong to any organized shooting league. And amongst the one group of us that was going to shoot it, we started calling it the dirt track, because it was, the rules would change in the middle of the match to benefit one particular shooter or two particular shooters and the like. And instead of getting mad about it, we laughed about it. And so we would always form the same squad, and we would just compete amongst each other, for bragging rights at lunch that day. And the first time I went to that match, I drove like an hour and a half to get there, get out of my truck, and realize that I had left my hearing protection at home. And I look over to the group of guys that's standing at the car next to me. I was like, "Hey guys, does anybody have a set of hearing protection I can borrow for the match?" And one guy's like, "Yeah, I got an extra set. Here you go." Tosses me a set. And I kept going back and shooting with that same group of guys. And one day, the guy that loaned me that hearing protection said, "You know what's going to happen is one of these days I'm going to buy a range, and you'll be my chief instructor." And lo and behold, he bought a range, and on all his paperwork for his insurance and stuff, I'm listed as his chief instructor. And that's where I teach my classes now when I'm able to teach.
Oh,
I've hosted
cool.
a bunch of range master stuff there and the like. And all of that grew out of going to a match and just having fun. That's all it was. That's all it was just having fun. Nobody was going to win anything like a prize or anything at that match. It was just going having fun shooting. And that gets lost from with those of us on the application side of the house, so much. There is absolutely nothing wrong with owning a gun just for the fun of owning and shooting it. And
Amen.
there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I was thinking about the days growing up when I would go out with my father's old Remington Scoremaster rifle and shoot fire ant beds in the pasture and everything, just how much fun that was just to watch the dust cloud go up and everything. And there's just, it's fun to go shoot. And let's don't forget that on the application side of the house. Uh, I'm amazed that we turned what I thought was, maybe we'll get 30 minutes out of this conversation into the far-reaching episode that it's gotten to. I have enjoyed the conversation. I thank the panelists for their time. And to the audience, we know that your most important asset is your time. Thank you for choosing to spend it with us.